This is the first video in a series of videos that I'm going to create showing every kind of thing that you can do with the digitizer inside of Grid Designer. So in this video, I'm going to show just a really simple, step one, digitization, and how the basics of maybe how to print it out afterwards and correct a few things in it using the editor, things like that. So we're going to just go to Project, Create from Image. So this is where you go if you have a picture that you'd like to digitize. Okay, and this dialog comes up here. You go down here and you pick Select Image. And for this one, I'm going to pick a really, really simple thing in black and white. We've got an airplane. And after you've loaded your picture, if it's not rotated correctly, you may have to rotate it using these buttons here. You can also crop by selecting part of it, and I'll show that in other videos. But for right now, this is just exactly what we want. So I'm going to go here to Palette, and I'm going to pick a yarn or something. There's also tile in here and all kinds of stuff. So, I'm going to pick just a Red Heart Super Saver. Okay. And that's going to do a digitization of this plane here. Now I want to set our colors to just 2 because we want to have just black and white in this. So we'll set it to 2. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to look at grid size. Okay. Now, for whatever craft you're doing, and it starts out usually when the first digitization is done, it'll set the longest side to about 200. So I use the term cells inside of Grid Designer to indicate each and every little box that's on the screen. So for some crafts like cross stitch, that would be a stitch. For some crafts like latch hook rug hooking, that would be like one piece of yarn in each cell. But I use the term cells in Grid Designer for this. So this is 200 cells by 100 cells. Now, if you have an idea of, what craft you're using and you want to know, you already know how big you want your chart to be, you can just change these values in here. If I change this to 100, then this automatically gets reset down here. So let's put it back up to 200 for now. Okay, but you can also tie this measurement to a specific craft, and you can give it specific measurements that will let it compute the size of this like in inches or centimeters. So we want to figure out, this is going to be like inches or centimeters over here. Like how many 200 cells is how many inches or how many centimeters? We want to sort of figure that out for our craft. So I'm going to go into Define Units. This other dialog will come up. We pick our project type in here, and then for here I'm doing crochet like this. Okay, and I have a predefined gauge in here that I use. You can always just type in your own gauge here, and if you're in a different craft, this dialog will look differently. If you're doing latch hook rug, then it will have settings for different number of holes per inch. Canvas and that kind of stuff, or if you're in cross stitch, it'll have some commonly used cross stitch things here, and also a way for you to put your own in. So you could always do it in your own size, whatever you want to do. So I'm setting up my crochet gauge like that. I could have typed my own information in here after making a sample of my crochet. Then I'm going to say Save Changes. And so now, using that information, it's going to say 200 cells, which are stitches for crochet, would be 66.667 inches, which is going to be a little big. So let's say we're going to put this as a panel on a grafkin. And the grafkin is probably going to be 60 inches long in its entirety. So let's make this more like 48 inches. And once I edit that, it'll recompute these other values. So now we have a grid that's going to be 144 by 78. And it's 48 inches wide and 24 inches tall if the information that I put in was correct for my crocheting. Okay. So now we have our airplane here. And now we're just going to go ahead and say create project. Okay. This is going to take what it digitized and put it out here in Grid Designer as a project, and we can give it a name. We don't have to save it here if you don't want to. You can just close this and you can go back and use project save to save later, but I'm just going to save it right now. Okay. Now, what happens generally is you need to do a little bit of editing on these things. And that will happen anytime you do digitization with really any tool. But what's nice about the Grid Designer is this puts you into an editor and you can now make a few modifications to it. Now, since we're doing something that's symmetric here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit one side of the airplane, then I'm going to copy it and flip it onto the other side. So I'm going to do just a few edits. So I have here a pencil tool and an eraser tool. The eraser tool will draw with the background color, which is white, and the pencil tool will draw with the black. And those colors are actually set up here. I'll show you those menus later. And there's a whole video on drawing tools and all of that stuff too. But for now, let's just go and use pencil and eraser. So eraser is going to put white spots in like that. So let's go in and do this. I'm going to switch over to the pencil. The pencil is going to put black in. The eraser is going to do white. Okay. Now, if you are on a desktop machine, there's actually a shorthand way to do this, and I'll show it that in another video. But let's just go ahead. Whoopsie. There's an undo up here. We'll go and do that, and we'll go and do that. I'm trying to make it look nice on one side. Something like that. And then let's put white in here and black in there. And maybe some white here. Maybe like that. Oh, and then we need that. I want that to be black. Needs to match the other side. Okay. Okay, so we've got that. We don't need that. Like that. And then, so I'm trying to make it kind of symmetric so that it looks, the circles look symmetric or whatever. And now, now that I've edited this side, I can now take that and copy it over onto the other side. Let's turn off our tool there. And now I'm going to take this selection down here. I'm going to say select rectangle. And I'm just going to pick the left side of this plane like that. And then I'm going to pick copy. And then I'm going to pick paste. So now I have this floating part of my airplane here. And there's a whole bunch of, there's videos on the copy and paste too, because there's a whole bunch of tools in here too, where you can modify your paste selection. But this one, I just want to flip it horizontally like that, so that now I have it on the other side. So I'm just going to set it there next to that. And then the blue thing here will apply it to the canvas. So now we have a nice symmetric airplane. It's not very centered though. We have only two things over here and several things over there. So let's go ahead, and there's a tool down here that adds and deletes rows and columns. So let's go and do this. Columns, delete. Okay. Then I'm going to delete all but two over here, so that now my airplane is in the center of my picture. Okay, then I'm going to save it like that. And now we would want to print it. So there are, actually you can print it or you can download it. So printing it will send it directly to your printer if you have a printer on your computer network. And download will allow you to download this picture or this picture in a PDF. There's various options there for what to download, and you could download that to a file, like a PNG file, and then you could open that with some other editor, like I'm on Microsoft Windows, it might use Microsoft Paint. I could open it up and print it with that. So there's lots of different ways that you can accomplish that. But the simplest thing to do is to just go into print. And here you have some options for how you're going to print it. I'm going to have some heavy lines drawn every 10 cells. And I'm not going to have any numbering. I'm going to have, this is medium cells. Since it's such a simple chart and it's just black and white, I'm going to put it to small cells because I think I can read it at that way. So if I go and say print, now what happens is it generates the picture that it's going to try and print. And then when you click print again, it will bring up the printing dialog for your browser. And this can look different depending on which browser you're using. I'm using Chrome at the moment. So this, with small cells turned on, will print, it looks like, on 2 pages. So I'll have the airplane on 2 pages there. Then I would just set up my printer and do my, regular settings and then just say print, and it would send it to the printer. Okay, and so that's the way you would, print out a project. And we'll be covering more and more options as I go along in this new series on digitization. Thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful. Bye-bye.